Vinnie Minchillo, Republican strategist with Glass House Strategy. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. So what do you make of the Dallas County Democratic Party chair going to the city of Dallas council meeting and calling on the mayor, Eric Johnson, to resign? This, of course, after the mayor announced in the Wall Street Journal on Friday that he's becoming a Republican. And there's also an online petition that Dallas Democrats have started calling on him to resign.
Yeah, well, it feels a little sour grapes to me. In a lot of ways, it's like, Dak Prescott coming to the coach and saying, hey, look, I don't think this team can win. I want to trade. So, I can understand how they're unhappy. One of their star players doesn't want to be on the team anymore, but there's a lot of good reasons for him to make that switch. Now, as far as him going before city council and complaining about it and demanding a resignation, I think that's not right. I mean, it's a nonpartisan election. So in a nonpartisan election, you vote for the person, not the party. That's how it's supposed to be. So really, the Democratic Party, they really don't get a say in that.
Democrats have said it's not necessarily a betrayal of Democrats, but more of a betrayal for the citizens of Dallas, most of whom are Democratic. They're aligned with the Democratic Party. So how do you react to that?
I go back to that. It's a nonpartisan election, and that's the whole point of a nonpartisan election is to vote for the person and not the party that we're in. Can it be less tribal? And that's what it's all about. So the Democrats are upset, but I just don't think they have a case. Some people have talked about recall. They've started a petition. So we'll see what happens. I think a recall election is not practical at this point. But I really just think it's sour grapes.
Well, they say timing is key because they said, why didn't he come, out with this before the election and before Michael Hinojosa, the former Dallas ISD superintendent, decided against running against him?
Well, the timing is interesting, and I don't know if it was on the table or not before his last election. I think the timing now is very interesting. It's after the Ken Paxton trial. It's after the budget is settled for the city. So, part of the question is, is he doing it now so he can take a run at the open Colin Allred seat? Or is he going to wait until his term is up and try to run for something in 2026?
And let me ask you, because, the mayor issued a statement today, Wednesday, when we are speaking, and he said, quote, "The future of America's great urban centers depends on the willingness of the nation's mayors to champion law and order and practice fiscal conservatism. Our cities desperately need the genuine commitment to these principles that has long been a defining characteristic of the GOP." And so I'm wondering, can a fiscal conservative, is that reason enough for the mayor? Do you believe that he can turn that into a win in a GOP primary in the state?
Well, that's a great question, and I said right now, if you're a fiscal conservative, a pro-police fiscal conservative, certainly there's not a place for you in the modern Democratic Party. That's not a winner on the D side. Is that a winner on the R side? To some extent, I think he's got a good start. Fiscal conservatism is kind of table stakes to work in a Republican primary. I think his positions on social conservatism are going to be, a little bit of a problem. Right now, it's all kind of rainbows and unicorns. Welcome to the party. Everybody's tweeting him and all that. But I think once he shows up in a primary, we're going to have to see what his positions really are.
And so what is the potential upside of him doing this, politically speaking?
Well, look, I think if you want a political career in Texas, the Democratic Party just simply has nothing to offer you. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. There's no way up. So really, Republican is the only way up. So the trick is will he be able to find races and constituents and pull together groups of people, that will agree with him. Right now in Texas, to be successful, you got to be a fiscal conservative, but you really got to be a social conservative. And he's one of those things, fiscal conservative, but not too social conservative. Are we ready for a pro-choice fiscal conservative in statewide Texas? Not sure.
Let me ask you about the GOP presidential primary, if I may. Tonight, it's the second one. Almost the same amount of Republicans, -1, 7 of them. Asa Hutchins, former Arkansas governor, not going to be there. Obviously, former President Trump, not going to be there. And so I'm wondering, what are you looking for tonight?
I think tonight we're looking at if it was a reality show, we'd be looking at the semifinals. We don't have the number one player. We're all kind of playing for second place. So we're looking for somebody who can break out and be the real number two in this race. For a long time, Ron DeSantis was the number two. And, in the last debate, he did okay. He didn't hurt himself, didn't really help himself. We saw people like Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, who really, kind of moved up their standing. So I think tonight I'm watching those three people, Nikki Haley, Ramaswamy, DeSantis, to see if there's anybody who can go and claim that second place spot.
Who is the most pressure? Who's under the most pressure to perform, and why?
Right. Well, certainly DeSantis is under the pressure. He's been holding the number two spot, but really having trouble hanging on. I think it's a make or break night for Nikki Haley. She did really well last time, and can she put two debates together? That would be what we're watching for tonight.
And what about Ramaswamy? What are his challenges?
It's kind of interesting. He's one of those guys where he's a really good retail politician, and which is strange for a tech guy to be a great retail politician. I think people are interested in him. I think he's got to seem a little more serious tonight. He was a little bit of a game show host last time, and so really he's got to be a little more serious, a little more on topic, and a little less of just kind of the crazy arm waving Vivek that we saw last time.
And let me ask you, I mean, what these three you mentioned in particular that you're going to be keeping an eye on, but all of the candidates, do they have to go after the former president? Do they have to go after Biden? Do they have to go after each other? Is it all of the above?
That's a great question, because going into a debate, you want to have a goal. What do I want to get done in this debate? So certainly they're all going to take their shots at Biden. To me, that's table stakes. You've got to go into this debate and poke at Biden as much as possible. But I think tonight we'll see more people going after each other, because I think somebody's got to come out of this debate being the solid second place. That would be the goal tonight. So I'm not sure a lot of people will go after Trump as much as they will go after each other.
And why is it so important, in your opinion, that tonight is so important for these candidates to establish themselves as the number two, the alternative to former President Trump?
Well, look, we're all busy. We all have short attention spans. You've just got to wonder how many more debates are people going to watch, unless you live in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina. I think people are going to lose interest pretty quickly here. So this may be the last time they get a big national audience to watch them. So you've got to strike while you've got that audience.
And, when you look at the trends, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the former president is so far ahead in the polls. He got a bump after all of these criminal charges have been filed against him. And so I'm wondering, does it much matter for these other candidates? Is it too late for them?
That's hard to say. I don't know that we've ever seen anybody as far ahead as Trump is right now in the polls at this point in the stage. Now that being said, I always take the early polls with a big grain of salt. And I don't really look at the national polls, or, those don't necessarily, match up with the state level electoral college kind of polls. And then in Iowa, I wouldn't start looking at those polls until 45 or 60 days out. So, Trump's very far ahead, historically far ahead, but it's awfully early.
All right. Vinnie Minchillo, Republican strategist with the Glass House Strategy. We really appreciate your insight to all this.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you so much.